Never gets old. Never gets old. Good morning.
That is one of those songs that, as you say, never got old on me.
Nah.
Now there are great classic rock songs that I don't care if I ever hear for the rest of my life.
That's true.
Stairway to Heaven. Don't care if I ever hear that song again.
Yeah, once was enough.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, a few more times than once. Another one, Free Bird. I love a lot of Leonard Skinner songs. That is not one.
You know what? It got worn out when you would see these greasy, scraggly, long-haired, green-toothed going, "Play Skinner, man!" And that kind of ruined it for me. It's like, I don't want to stand in line with those troops. You know what I mean?
I didn't make it a judgment of people's worth. I just found the song tiresome.
Yeah, well.
I mean, how long can you listen to three chords with five guitars going, it's like, holy crap.
It's like, can you play Jessica by the Allman Brothers? I can,
no,
but I won't. Yeah.
Well, so welcome. Here it is, Wednesday morning, midweek already.
It is the 20th of May. On this date, a number of years ago, Karen Profita was born. She wasn't born Karen Profita. She was born Karen Jensen.
Karen Jensen.
But
a nice Swedish girl, huh?
Danish.
Yeah.
Danish. E-N rather than O-N. Yeah. So
there's a joke in there. I'm not going to say.
I know. That's just what I was always told by her. But it's her birthday, so happy birthday, baby.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Karen. Happy birthday to you. I feel bad for Karen because right now that's a name that's being flown around on the interwebs to depict the whiners, the complainers, why aren't you wearing your mask shamers, the ones that will actually call the authorities if you know. There's at least 12 of them in that carport. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, them.
The Gladys Kravitz types. So I feel bad for Karen having to wear that name, but I'm sure she wears it with pride.
Well, it served her a long time, and it'll be there long after the Karen craze is over with.
And you know, you must be very, very proud of her.
I am.
She is a very accomplished individual.
She is an accomplished person in a number of disciplines. She is an accomplished nonprofit executive. She's an accomplished broadcaster. And you know what? She's an accomplished good person.
She's just good people.
She is just good people. That is what she is.
I know Baton Rouge radio misses her.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if she could, find some place to bring her radio show back, or maybe television.
Yeah, we were talking. We were talking about some of the previous things that she has done, and she voiced some of the national spots for the first chiropractic Vax-D kind of device. Although I think the one she did was called something else, and she voiced those. And then they had her do a 30-second television commercial, but they wanted her to wear like no makeup or anything like that. She was supposed to look like
somebody whose back hurt.
Yeah, and oh my God, she hated that. She hated doing that. She's like, people who make themselves up, they have back problems too.
But Karen on her worst day looks better than most people do after they've spent an hour and a half in front of the mirror.
I have to agree with you on that.
So, there's that.
But happy birthday, my baby, my darling. So anyway, here we are. It's like the morning after the big virtual second line.
I didn't see nobody had any news coverage of that.
No.
Nobody sent any camera people out to.
No.
I get the feeling that it was probably a bunch of nothing. We're talking about 19 thanks. And listen, I'm sorry if we're disrespecting anybody who organized this
I'm
thing,
not.
but Bill's not, but,
stupidity should be painful, folks. I've maintained this all my life.
We realize that criticizing this thing is criticizing a person who conceived it or persons who conceived it, and I'm sorry if that's the case, but I just, from the very first time I heard about it, I thought, what a stupid idea. And what does that do? And then what? Your 19 minutes of prancing about is all done, then what? What have you accomplished? Well, go out and do something. Or at least give money so somebody else can do something.
It's just such an obvious psychological glom-on that it offends me, to tell you the truth.
Well, it's what I call happy, feely, goody shit.
But it's for them.
Sorry for the
It's for them. We have a police officer who is in here right now. And I intend to thank him in person for everything he has gone through over the last 75 days. You know, this was supposed to show support. How does jumping around in your own yard, like you're getting tased, and you have brain damage on top of that, you know, looking completely decerebrate, waving a snot rag above your head, how does that support frontline workers? Please explain that to me. How do they derive support from that? The only officer, thank you. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for your service. You take care. But how does that support them? And unless you're thinking of maybe nurses that have been working COVID that used to work, you know, neurology, and they haven't seen a good stroke patient in a while, and this gives them some familiarity. I just don't understand how that is supposed to support these people.
I don't know. You know, I've got my own feelings about gestures and symbols and things like that. I've never had much use for symbols and gestures ever. I mean, going back to my teenage days, I remember getting in crap with my peers in high school because do you remember POW MIA bracelets?
Yeah.
Everybody had one. Everybody was wearing one. And I said, well, that's great, and you look really impressive there. It's a nice metal bracelet and everything. But how the hell is that bringing that guy home? How is that contributing in any way to bringing that guy home?
Well, you just got to be a downer on everything.
So you and me are, to some extent, cut from the same bolt of cloth.
Well,
I think I
yes
tend to
and
be
no.
a little bit more empathetic, but I'm with you on this. I thought it was what a stupid idea.
See, I think there's somebody posted this about a week and a half ago that said we're fighting two battles. We're fighting one against the virus and we're fighting one against stupidity. And the problem is
Gullibility, too.
Yeah, we got that. Carmen Million was on again today with Liz Coe. Your Venmo account, be careful where you send money. Damn, Carmen, never thought of that.
Well, for some people, that's useful info.
Well, but you know what? If God did not want them to be shorn, he wouldn't have made them sheep.
Okay.
Thank you, Tuco.
But you were saying.
Anyway,
getting back on track here.
I think that we have degenerated, particularly when there's times of stress or crisis of important decisions. Our default is to go stupid and to say, I love first responders. Here, I'm going to decorate a Solo cup and I'm going to put it on my light pole to show that I support first responders. And it's stupid, it's meaningless, it's insulting. Now again, I think what they've done in some major cities, and I think they've probably done a little of it here, is where people who are healthy or people who have recovered will go to a medical center and they'll wait until shift change and they'll stand far enough apart to where they're not endangering anybody, and they will give them a round of applause. Mm-hmm. Now that's meaningful. You're there in front of them. How does somebody at 2814 Jefferson Terrace, standing out in the yard with their kids, jumping around to magical music that nobody can hear and looking like you ought to call EMS because maybe they're having some sort of a seizure, how does that support these people?
It was a cute idea.
No, it wasn't. It was a stupid idea. It was conceived.
Well, cute is often stupid.
It was a self-gratification idea. Oh boy, I'm going to invent this thing that's going to go nationwide, and it's really going to do something.
Should I sum this up for people that maybe hadn't heard of 19 Thanks? Okay, 19 Thanks was last night. Okay, the 19th at 1900 hours, 7 p.m. They wanted everybody in Louisiana to gather and do a virtual second line, which means you're second lining around in your living room or your front yard with no one else, to show your support for the frontline workers, the first responders, the medical caregivers. Okay, I just don't think you need to do something that dopey. Oh, by the way, for 19 minutes. For 19 minutes, they wanted. As I mentioned yesterday on our TV show, I don't think I have ever seen a real second line that lasted 19 minutes. I mean, even with a full Dixieland, jazz band blowing, People get bored with that
Those
crap.
drug addicts that are leading it out in the sun can't last 19 minutes without keeling over.
So, I thought it was, probably not the greatest of ideas.
And why do you want to imitate? Why do you want to imitate something so totally non-organized, non-musical, non-anything? Why, if you want to do something for 19 minutes on the 19th for some reason, go out and sing "What the World Needs Now Is Love." Anybody can sing that song. Why do you want to imitate people that are jumping around, looking like their nards are on fire, waving a snot rag over their head? Why would you want to do that?
Buy the world a Coke and keep it. No, silly. Now, we did also talk about lighting the way, which is another way to show your support for the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, the cops, the firemen, the EMS. And that's a simpler gesture. It doesn't require you to act the fool.
Yeah,
you get a blue,
and asking people to act the fool, that's on my list.
Replace the lamps in your outdoor lighting with the blue lights. Not all of them necessarily. Some people have, like floods for security, but your porch light, put a blue light in there instead. And the people that are sponsoring, lighting the way, even make it available to get in touch with them and get your blue lamp. They'll give you a blue LED bulb that'll go in just about anything that you need.
Are they charging for them, or are they giving them to you?
I think they're giving them away.
Well, that's nice.
I could be wrong, but if you want to find out, go to lightingtheway.com.
But, is there a commercial running somewhere?
Well, I think that what you're hearing is that we got Pandora blowing. And
Pandora's carrying commercials now.
If you get free Pandora, then you get
You
commercials.
have to run the commercials. Mm-hmm. But in the post about the show, I said we'd ask you, did any of you do the 19 thanks? Or
anyone?
Did any of your neighbors do it and you could see them? Because you were supposed to go outside, by the way, to do this.
No, you didn't have to.
If any of you did
stand up in your living room.
If any of you did it, just please post to and let us know.
Did anybody see anyone do it? Did anybody hear anyone do it?
Because I am thinking that nobody did it, basically.
Yeah.
I am thinking that nobody did it. Which, again, that's kind of proof of concept there.
I can tell you exactly what I was doing at 7 o'clock last night. I was sitting on my sofa, enjoying myself a beverage, and watching reruns of Big Bang Theory.
I told Karen, I said, well, let's go, and let's go through our neighborhood and go through the neighborhood next door.
Well, people in your neighborhood aren't going to do that.
Oh, I don't know. We have a lot of physicians and people like that in my neighborhood.
You have some woke people in your neighborhood?
Probably not. We have to sleep. But Karen looked at me and she said, "You're crazier than they are." She said, "Nobody's going to do this."
No.
But
yes.
As always, there is a bigger issue. All right, now, I am trying not to be sarcastic, but if some of my sarcasm drips through, please ignore that and go to the central question.
Bill, they know what comes with the turf, okay? So
The central
fire
question,
away.
The central question is, why do you feel this is necessary? Why do you feel it's necessary to do any of it? Why do you feel it's necessary to do any of it? Why do you feel it's helpful to do any of it? That's the whole thing. Nobody wants to answer that.
Let's not kid each other. It's to make people feel better about themselves.
Bingo! It's an emotional masturbation. That's all it is. It is completely unnecessary. It is completely without result. It is completely specious in its origin.
Our proprietor, Lance, what a scallywag. I like the light idea, says Lance. Lance LeBlanc is the proprietor here at La Divina, which, by the way, is open with limited seating, and, of course, you can always take out. I like the light idea, says Lance. Perhaps a red light can be put on the porch for the service industry workers.
Which service, Lance?
Maybe not red.
Which service?
Service with a smile.
Remember, your wife monitors this program. Remember that. She's watching the stream, too. But
Yeah, Jack summed it all up. Self-aggrandizement. That's what's behind it.
That's exactly what it is.
They want to feel like, we we did something to show our support. You know what you can do to show your support for these people? Shut up, get out of the way, and let them do their jobs.
Let them do their job.
And, flooding their hospital with food that they probably, a lot of them, will not get an opportunity to eat. It's like, identify who's going without food, and I guarantee you there are people going without food.
But I am serious. Maybe I'm too jaded, but I would like somebody to give me a reasonable explanation as to why and what they really think the purpose is, and whether or not it is effective at that purpose. I know this goes beyond a lot of people. Oh, I just feel like I need to do something. You know what you need to do?
Shut up.
Shut up!
This is a time when what you're being asked to do is nothing. Stay home, be a good couch patriot, get your groceries covered with COVID-19 virus delivered to your house. Wear a mask when you go out, because not that it's actually going to protect anybody, but they'll certainly feel better about you.
And you know
I've got
what?
one in my hip pocket, by the way, just in case anybody gives me the stink eye.
Speaking of stink, you're going to put that on your face?
Yeah, man.
All right.
I've only farted into it a few times. I mean, if I could live through my own farts,
Well, that's
I
true.
could
If you can live through your
COVID-19.
own, there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that bit will never be used again. But, seriously, Kevin, I mean,
Besides, mine smell okay.
there you go. Thank you.
George Carlin, thank you very much, sir.
But I have seen you dozens of times reach into your wallet or reach into your pocket for a checkbook or a credit card and actually give a donation to a charity or a person's charity or a nonprofit that is making an appeal, that is in need. You do things that actually move the needle. I've seen you do it hundreds of times in the years we've been associated with each other.
Well, thank you for noticing, and I'm not looking to be noticed when I do it.
That was the point I was going to make. You don't want anybody logging onto your website and saying, oh, how wonderful it is that you did 48 thanks. Oh, let's take it nationwide. Let's spread 48 thanks. The best acts of appreciation are done anonymously and privately and personally.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff really, I know a couple of the people that were involved in the front end of this, and I'm sorry. I was like, why are you doing this?
Which one of them is probably going to unfriend me over this?
You've been
We're on Facebook Live.
unfriended before.
I've been unfriended before, but I'm sorry. I don't mean this personally. I just thought it was a silly idea. Let me tell you a quick story. I've told you about my dad before. But my dad, God bless him, Donald E. Gallagher Sr., was a blue-collar dude. Mm-hmm. He did his 4 years, actually 5 in the U.S. Army. He got to the rank of corporal in the U.S. Army. And when he came out, he went to work. In our hometown, there was a lot of industry, and he got a job at the local oil refinery. Mm-hmm. And there he worked until the day that he left, when the whole family moved to Mississippi. But my dad was just a blue-collar guy. He was a team leader and a shift leader. He made it up in his years at the oil refinery, but he was just the kind of guy that went and got his hands dirty and sometimes wounded doing his job. My dad instilled in me a quality or a value of life that it's about your deeds and not ever about your words. Words, talk is cheap. Politicians talk. People do things. And that's why, if I've got the money, when the train comes in, everybody rides. If I've got the money and I can help, I do. Mm-hmm. And
I've seen you do it.
And I don't like to make a big deal about it. And that's how I would like to see more people respond to this COVID-19 virus. Let's take care of the people who are sick. Let's take care of the people who are out of work. Let's take care of the people who are erstwhile aren't eating, or they're eating rice and beans 3 nights a week. If you want to help, go talk. You said it yesterday on the TV show. Go talk to Mike Manning at the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, and Mike will tell you exactly how you can help and who you're helping.
Yeah. And here's the whole thing. Before I got into broadcasting, I worked in medicine, okay? Mm-hmm. I have a great deal of respect for medicine, for physicians, nurses, therapists, laboratory technicians. I have an equal respect for people who will go into a burning building, or who will drive up lights and siren and get out of that car and run to the sound of gunfire rather than away from it, like most of us would. I have a great deal of respect for somebody who in the dead of night will jump in a vehicle and ride to someone's house and hook them up to an EKG machine and give them medication that saves their life until they get to the hospital. I have a great deal of respect for that. Every one of these people would tell you today they don't need support. They're still working. They're still getting paid. Many of them are getting paid overtime. Most of them, if they're halfway humble, will say, I don't need this. But you know what?
Someone else does.
That restaurant down the corner had to lay off all of their wait staff. Do something for them. I don't understand why people want to glom on to the folks that are providing a much-needed service and doing it very well, but are not in any financial jeopardy. I don't understand why people want to glom on to them and do it in these ridiculously specious ways. You know, I look at it the same way I look at it with the funny Jesus billboards, from these kind of way out there churches. And I'm like, you know what? If I were the Almighty, I would be pissed about that billboard, particularly the misspelling. But I am asking, please, somebody tell me why. I would like to know really why.
So far, by the way, Bill, not one person who's watching or involving themselves in the chat feature has seen or has reported seeing anybody taking part in 19 thanks.
No.
So, again, deeds, not words. And words, I count among words, symbols, symbolic gestures. This is why, when everybody else was looking up at the sky, it's not every day you get to see B-52s, so I understand the wow factor with 2 B-52s and 2 F-15s in flight over Baton Rouge. But let's not kid ourselves. The reason for that flight was they got to log the flight time anyway. Chances are they would have been in the sky anyway. They just would have been at a higher altitude over a mostly rural area.
Yeah.
Flying that northern loop over, North Louisiana and Arkansas and maybe parts of Mississippi before coming back to base. But instead, they came down, they flew down to the Capitol and did a passover downtown. They were going to put in the flight time anyway, but suddenly it became this huge symbolic gesture.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what I wondered about was how many frontline workers were able to pay attention to it. Because most of them were doing their jobs.
Yeah, they made a low pass over the medical complex. I know that, because Oxner, by the way, is using it in one of their commercials now. I think a lot of people have never been inside a major medical center when there's a crisis. I think a lot of people have never done that, never experienced that. And perhaps we all should. You want to talk about got their head in the game 100% of the time? Not one of these people who is actually doing something is saying, where's my thanks? Where's my free meal? Not one of them is saying that. They're a little too damn busy.
Yep.
And thank God for that.
Yeah, and we thank them for it. As I say, people say, well, our heroes. Some people say, well, don't call them heroes. It's their job. But they chose a job where they could get sick or they could get attacked, whether they be cops, whether they be firemen. And yes, firemen have been attacked. Firemen have been, they get burned, they get injured, they have stuff fall on them. And, of course, medical workers, whether they be nurses or medical aides or doctors, respiratory therapists, those people that work in those hospitals, they understand that they've taken a job where they could be exposed to an illness or they could be exposed to somebody who is a dangerous patient. And, God bless them for doing what they do. But I'm not going to go out and dance with a napkin around, in my hand. Well, that's just, I'm a Yankee. Okay, I'm a Yankee. I'm from Pennsylvania, but I've lived down here for more of my life than I spent in Pennsylvania. I still always thought the second line was one of the more ridiculous things I've ever seen people do.
Oh,
and, of course, I lived in Mississippi for many years before I moved to the atmosphere of New Orleans. And So I wasn't exposed to that at all, and no, that's just something people do not do in Mississippi. And then you know, I moved to Hammond, and you start seeing people do that. Well, why are they? What is that? Well, that's something they do in New Orleans. Well, let them do it in New Orleans. It looks like you look like an idiot.
Well, yeah, and nobody looks good doing that, by the way. It is one of the most undignified things I've ever seen in my life.
Some people do look good doing it. Come on, you've been to a couple of Mardi Gras balls, you know, and where the ladies' ball gown is particularly tight. And,
Oh well, yeah, well, I mean,
Come on.
that's a peripheral.
yeah,
Sometimes a large peripheral.
yeah.
Sometimes
that's not the rule. But
sometimes a pair of peripherals.
say, yeah, that's not the rule. But you know, come on.
But I mean, it's stupid. You know, the music is awful. The musicians, again, most of them on the way in or out of rehab. Some of them still have the needle in their arm. They can't play four notes over and over again properly or in the same key or in the same time. And you're jumping around to no particular step behind them, and you're waving a snot rag over your face.
An observation.
And usually, it's out in the heat, and usually you're impeding the ordinary flow of traffic on a street. Why is this a good idea at any time?
Before we break for our break and go into part two in a few minutes, the one observation I've always had about Dixieland jazz is I can think of no other type of music where everybody in the band is playing lead all the time.
Oh, it's just...
Nobody is playing rhythm in a Dixieland jazz band.
Well,
not even the drummer. Everybody is playing lead.
And that's one of the biggest problems we have in this state, in my opinion, is that we glom onto anything and we decide to make it iconic, whether it is good or not. You know, there's plenty of good musicians in this state, and a lot of them have made real music instead of this crap. Well, I guess we got to have something, so we'll elevate the crap.
By the way, as we go to break, someone once asked me not so long ago, why don't you have more musicians on your podcast and your TV show? It's like, well, because most of you are still in bed.
Sleeping it off.
Yeah. Getting y'all out of bed for an 8 o'clock podcast is a real trick.
Tony says at least it's better than the Christmas shoes.
It is. Always better than the Christmas shoes.
Yeah, that's true, Tony. I got to give it that. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a few moments.
I'm going to grab a cup of coffee. You do too. We'll be back here in about 3.5.
Somewhere
All right,
around
give us
there.
4.
Yeah, give us 4.
Maybe 5.
Let's second line around the building before we do that.
Yeah, you got a napkin?
I got a snot rag.
I got a mask. I can wave my mask.
Look, I got a snot rag here.
All right, see you in a few.
Hey.